All right, everyone, welcome back for another episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Thursday, March 23rd, 2023. If you're not done so already, please give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts and analysis. Anyways, let's get into it here. So, if you guys follow me or followed my YouTube short this morning or me on Twitter, or if you remember at Carnivore Trades, you saw in the forum I posted today, like this is definitely a bull trap. Just a little retrace to yesterday's selling. And anytime, I talk about this all the time, but anytime you get this is a power reversal here. You know, I mean, we went up into the 50 MA. It's very much like this one here with, good volume. And that was, up, 3/4 of the trading day was very light volume before the FOMC. Into this 50 MA, into this trend line, confirming a lower high here on the daily time frame. A power reversal, right? Anytime you get something like that, you never really want to look to play the bull side if the market gaps up. And obviously, that you could have bought the open and you would have made a little bit of money there. I mean, it was a pretty nice squeeze. Actually, I have to say it was a pretty good squeeze there. The volume was absolutely abysmal. And it's still kind of on the lighter. Actually, it's picking up now, right? 84 million shares. So that's actually kind of heavy. But in the morning, I think we were at like 19 million shares around 10:30, 11 o'clock. It was very light. And they were just floating it up. But I said, look, this is a trap here. I never like it when you gap up after a big flush like that. It's usually a gap up for selling. And that's exactly what happened here. And we're now punching to the lows of the day here. So I know the Gamma Bears are targeting 3,900 currently as they broke that 3,950 level. And market's definitely coming in pretty nicely and showing some follow through to the downside here. Triple Q's still holding up. To me, it looks like a lot of those, and again, kind of the same story here. The Apples of the world. Apple just flat on the day, now just turning negative. Microsoft was very strong earlier. That's still green. Google's been showing a little bit of relative strength. This one was a laggard, now kind of outperforming a little bit. Even Meta is still green on the day. Amazon's taking a little bit of a dump there, though. I do not like Amazon all that much right now, but point is, big tech still kind of doing the legwork, and you see the Russell 2000. Take a look here at the 1240 time frame Eastern, IWM into double bottom, and spiders were still all the way up here, still green. That was kind of a tip off. We talked about that yesterday. The KRE was under pressure here. The Russell was under pressure as well, and that kind of led to the downside. It kind of was a leading indicator. Take a look at the KRE also breaking, way through the lows of that, but way before the 1230 time frame, way at 12 o'clock actually. So a little bit leading to the downside there again, and that is kind of the, it's the fulcrum of the market right now. These financials, obviously, it doesn't need to be said. And the Russell 2000 obviously has a lot of those regional banks in it. And, again, it's the Russell is a small cap index. It does represent risk. So when that is fading, it's generally, not a good sign for the markets. And we're still seeing, kind of money, a little bit of a flight to big tech, really. Whereas normally you'd see a flight to safety would be something like a bank. But right now, that just isn't the case. I still think the Qs have some making up to do on the downside. But you know what? They're holding up right now. You got to respect it here. They're still up 60 basis points. It's hard to believe in this market here. The Qs are up 0.5%, with the spiders down as much as it is, and with the Russell down as much as it is. But either way, pretty good little fade there. I know Yellen basically, 20 minutes ago, she just kind of, did a 180 and said like, depositor, yeah, we might pick and choose, and the market kind of liked that for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and we did put in a lower high there. So I still think right now, as far as the technicals are concerned, on the spiders, I think we need to go down and probably test at least this trend line here. You've got that green bar, and then this is this little pivot where we put in a low, we reversed, and then we went back to this area. So I think that's where the spiders want to go in the near term. If we get through that, we'll probably pierce 380, maybe even, 378, 377. That's really all the downside I see right now. I'm not seeing this type of market in, we're not in flush mode right now. It's not quite like it was, last April, May, June, or even, August, September, October. We're kind of just in that grind period, and you're still seeing dip buyers come in. And there's still a lot of bears too. And that's kind of partly why I think it's hard for this market to really flush, because there's just too many hedges already. And we've talked about that before on the channel here. But for right now, I still think we at least have to go down there and get to 384 or so, which would take you into this pivot bar on the spider. So we'll see from there. Timing does matter a little bit as well. We'll have to see how fast it goes down there. If it flushes, we flush really hard tomorrow, then we could pierce through that and get to that little double bottom, maybe even a little bit lower, a pierce of that. But again, that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. They may save the 200 moving average here today. They did close it below yesterday on the SPX. Remember, we talked about that, how they just saved it on the SPX, not the spiders. We'll see if the bears can push it below. There's still some gamma at 39.50. I don't know if they'll bounce us that high, but in this market, I can't rule it out. They are bringing the VIX in a little bit here, but either way, it doesn't really change anything. I still think we got to go down into this area here. Anyways, for the Qs, that would probably take you down. So the Qs are a little bit stronger right now still. So that would probably take you down into like the 295 area. If it's really strong, maybe it can hold 300. But again, I am still seeing a little bit more weakness here. The Russell, probably needs to go down and fill this gap here. It's still very weak. And again, big bear pattern here. Pretty much clear as day, right? Down move, sideways chop, never even really had any sort of meaningful bounce, just kind of a dead cat bounce. And now we're taking out the lows here. So if you get follow through, this can, go down to this gap. And this is not far from the October lows either. So a lot of weakness there. Obviously, regional banks taking that down. Dow here, again, 20 MA rejection. Yesterday, we talked about that. You tested it again today, and you bounced right back off of it. So Dow also showing some weakness here. This can get down to 315, and then maybe if that gets through that, you've got that big gap right there at a 310, 311, and then there's some pivots here, some more minor pivots. A bigger level is right around 302, 303 there on the daily. But right now, Dow just kind of hanging in there. Still hasn't taken out this low, so we'll give it the benefit of the doubt for now. Anyways, over to the semis. Semis just do not want to go down here. AMD got a really big bid today, although it is way off the highs here. Still inside of, it's going to close inside of yesterday's range. NVIDIA, same thing. Pretty good tail candle there. Full disclosure, I'll just say it because everybody's short NVIDIA. I did pick up an NVIDIA short today. Just a starter position though. I've been holding off for quite a while here. But that candle yesterday is a pretty good sell signal. I like it when you get a retrace of those. And we got that one today, so I did pick one up there. Intel's up decently as well, and that is helping out the SMH. So semis are still holding up really well. I still don't see a ton of upside in them, honestly. I just, obviously otherwise I wouldn't have picked a NVIDIA short here. I'm basically shorting the strongest stock in the market. But that 618, this is such a wall up here. Maybe it can trade up a little bit here, but I'm not seeing any sort of power move here in the semis right now. So I think upside is limited, and they need to play catch up on the downside. IGV here, getting a nice bounce still inside of yesterday's candle, which was an engulfing reversal. It's holding up okay, never made a new high. This has been a tough one to trade here. Again, we broke through that trend line, had a nice little 1-2 pullback and then a pop, engulfing reversal. So, and still, unless it takes out this high on a closing basis, I would still give it a bear bias here, probably back down to 280. But again, it's holding up, so we'll respect it. Dow Transports, again, on the weaker side. So again, Dow and Russell seem to be kind of positively correlated here. Basically at the lows, doesn't look like we made a new low. So 13,603. Yeah. Oh, so we made a new low by 3 points. Not much, but it is a slight lower low there. And again, back testing the 200, coming way off the highs. It is a little bit off the lows here, but everything is just getting a bounce. If this does more backing and filling, it's going to break through this. This is really good support right here, 13.2 to 13.5. But if this consolidates more, this can push through that. So just be aware. And then you don't have anything till about 13,000. You got a lot right there at that pivot. This is a breakout, pivots, but that's where I think it wants to go if this can't break through, break back above 14.1. So, and again, obviously that sell signal there on the weekly is holding up really well. So anyways, over to rates here. So interest rates still all over the map. The 2-year is getting a bid. So that is bringing the yields down, and that kind of gave the market a lift earlier. Now rates are really starting to push up here, really in the last 2 hours or so. It's been getting a nice bid here on the 2 year and the 30 year as well. 10 year coming in nicely also. I don't see a ton of upside here. I just don't see a lot of it. You've got a lot of resistance up here. Can the 2 year push a little bit higher? Yes. The Fed wants that. The Fed wants the 2 year up, and they want this down. I don't see hardly any upside right here in the 30 year right now. This is a lot of resistance, and that 50 MA. I mean, we stalled out there pretty nicely. I don't use Bollinger Bands all that often. I've been using them a little bit more recently, but if you take a look here, that's flat. So that I don't see any upside here for the 30 year. If it's gonna have upside, it's got to consolidate. There's a ton of resistance up there. So that's just my thoughts right now on bonds. But they're holding up. They're having a rally. We'll respect it. There's a 10 year making a slight higher high. It is above the 50 MA for now. But again, I don't see a ton of upside. In the shorter end of the curve, I see a little bit more upside right now than the long end. I guess I'll leave it at that. But yeah, bonds getting a little bit of a bid here today. Anyways, over to housing, XHB, ITB, both lower again, still like these daily chart bear patterns, just setting up a big base there. Kind of inverse to what we did back in November, December, up move and then sideways consolidation. Now we have a down move and sideways consolidation. So I think we're building a base here to go lower, but they're holding up for now. VNQ just continues to be a dog. What can you say? It's probably going to go down to 76.50, and then you got this green bar there. Not a lot outside of that. I mean, you probably pierce double bottom again, gap fill. We talked about that yesterday, but that one remains under pressure. XLF here, also under pressure. And again, kind of the same as the Russell, kind of the same as the transport's down move, sideways chop, making a slight lower low here. It probably wants to go test that 30-30 area. Let's look at that on the weekly. Yeah, so that goes all the way back. That's a big, that's a former, not all-time high, but multi-year high. That's been a floor for quite a while. But that's a pretty good power move on volume. So I think we can get through that. Doesn't mean it'll go in a straight line. We'll probably have to, do some backing and filling first, but that ultimately will break. So XLF, again, just showing weakness. Nothing really new there. Broker dealer is also backing off as well. Again, you have support down here. I ultimately think this has to go back to 400 though. Over to crude here. So that did back off the highs. I was getting a really nice bid earlier and backed off the highs here. I think this wants to test the 20 moving average right now, but I'm still watching it very closely. I'm not a fan of it right here. I would not be a buyer until at least 60, but I think it wants to go a little bit lower than that. So again, crude under pressure and a little bit of a dead cat bounce there. We'll see what we get going into next week. XLE, again, nice outside move down. That's still starting to come down. And we're seeing, we talked about this yesterday, the market's looking at the recession next, right? That's what I think is going to happen. And you're starting to see that kind of priced in energy, and you're starting to see that priced in a little bit in bonds, right? The 2 years getting a bid, the 30 years starting to come back. So those yield curves are starting to try to normalize a little bit. But this does look like kind of a recession type tape right now. XOP also down 2%. OIH down 3.5%. Again, never quite got to that 250 level. So I do think that gets tagged. If you get through that, there's a really good support area here around 230, 233. But for right now, still showing some weakness there on the daily. Just needs those moving averages to catch up. All right, over to nat gas. Nat gas getting hit again. Trying to hold on to this pivot here. Not really showing a lot on some of the smaller time frames currently. I still think you have a very good chance of putting in a higher low. If not, this bottoming tail here on the monthly may get tested, but there's a pretty good floor here in natural gas, and it's been there for about 11 years. So it got defended last month with volume. I think we can put in a higher low here. And sometimes when you have these longer term patterns, they take a little bit of time to play out. That's kind of what I'm expecting happens here with nat gas. But either way, very good level here. We'll see if it holds. You had a nice bid here, but just not showing anything since then. So it may need to go down and test double bottom. Had a nice bid last month. Cyclically, this should be able to put in a low here, but we'll watch it going into next week as well. Not sure what we get tomorrow. may want to go down and test that $2 handle again, but we'll see there. Anyways, over to the dollar index, DXY. Up 0.25%. It's getting defended here. I told you guys that 102 level would be pretty good. And it's getting a bounce off of that. This is going to need a monster bid, though, to save this green bar on a weekly close, because that's tomorrow. It's Friday. So I really doubt that happens at this point. But it's holding the 102 handle for now, so we'll see what it gets here over the next couple of days. I did move out of my dollar long. The second half of it, we took a gain on both halves, actually. We took a small gain on the second half, stopped out of it today. Just not liking that weekly pattern. I still think this has one more low to make, and then it's going to go much higher. But for now, showing a little bit of weakness with that weekly pattern there. Gold here, as you'd imagine, that did pierce 2,000 again. Didn't quite make a new high, but it's holding up really well. And the only problem I have with gold up here, it's holding up. I can't say anything wrong about it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a little overbought. But the problem I have with it is it's just up on fear right now. And if you look at GDX, this is closer to 52-week lows than it is to 52-week highs. So that to me says that we're not seeing institutional accumulation right now. I'm not expecting new highs. Smart money's not expecting new highs. So this to me, if you get fears alleviated, gold can come in. But right now, we'll respect it. It's holding up. I'm looking for, again, we'll watch that 1962 area by the end of the month. That will be next week. I think next Friday is the 31st. So we'll be watching that going into the end of the month. But, gold's holding up. We'll respect it for now. Again, silver through the 23 area. We'll watch 23.50 and then 24. Again, you guys know those levels there. Platinum also holding up. If this firms up, this can go higher. I'm just not in love with the pattern right now. And then copper, decently higher. I think this is about done, though. I don't have a lot of upside here. And copper, again, you guys know 375 is what I'm looking for there. All right, lastly, over to, let's get to Bitcoin here. So Bitcoin's still holding up. It had a nice pump in the middle of the day with the rest of the market, and that's faded pretty much all of that. So right back to 28,000. It's trying to put in a little higher low here. We would have preferred to see it kind of hold up in this area here around 28.4 on an intraday basis at least, but it did fade pretty good. It's still holding up. You tested this green bar low yesterday. Never closed below it, obviously. And as long as this consolidates, this still can go higher. So we'll just, believe it or not, it can go a little bit higher. I know it's up, like 50% in the last 2-3 weeks, but this can go up. You do have a wall up here, though. Just be aware of that. There's an absolute wall up here. And like I said the other day, this might need to go pierce 30,000, because when that happens, you're going to get all the talking heads on. It's going to be all over the news, and you're going to get everybody on board. All the chasers are going to get on board. And then that's when I think you can actually really start to pull back there. But anyways, back over to the spiders here. So market's set to close in about 20 minutes. And we're basically just hovering right at the lows here. So right around 392 on the spiders. Can they bid us up here in the next 20 minutes? Absolutely. Could they flush us? Absolutely. I don't think it's of much consequence, though. I think the majority, the bulk of the move is made, whether or not we close green or red on the day. I still think this wants to go down and test kind of this lower level here and possibly that all-time high trend line again. Remember, the more we hit this, the weaker it gets, though. So just be aware of that. Anyways, guys, going to wrap it up here. You guys take care. You can find me at carnivoretrades.com. We'll talk to you all tomorrow.